I mean, once you're engaged in it, there seems to be two pieces to the puzzle, so to speak. And that's this information gathering. Right? You've found something that nobody can describe, yet you know it to be true, and yet you're so intrigued by it, you're running around the internet turning over stones. That's how it works. What is interesting about this part of the journey is that you're actually dissolving false knowledge. You might not realize it, but you're actually eliminating mind along the way. You're eliminating what's false in reality, and someday, soon, if you haven't already, you will experience the one truth that's here, which is yourself. There seems to be this collection period that it is the absence of collection, that you get to a point to where you're willing to turn your attention inward and go inside and practice self-inquiry by leaving everything else. And what I mean by everything else, you leave the world, you turning your attention away from the world, and you're putting it on to yourself. But to do that, there just seems to be this collection period of information to where you get comfortable enough with what is being pointed to that you realize the only way that you can truly know what is being pointed to is you have to turn within. And that's where the true understanding and clarity starts.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this somewhat path. It's known in Advaita as the path of jnana. Jnana is pure knowledge. You, yourself, are jnana. So it's a path back to you, but the path itself is a path of false knowledge destruction in which you end up at the truth of yourself. In the very end, even jnana knows that it itself is false knowledge, because it's still something your mind knows, and anything your mind knows is false knowledge. So even jnana in the very end dissolves itself, leaving only you.
Mm-hmm. Well, jnana is just a concept.
Jnana is a concept.
Ultimately, it's a concept, and anything which is what's so profound is that anything that we say instantly becomes just a concept, because it can't ever explain this nothing that is kind of holding life and moving. This is just my experience. It's kind of moving life around, so to speak.
It's a concept until it becomes yourself, until you become, and it's not a becoming, until you realize you are it. You've always been yourself. You've always been jnana. Because you're right, you're in the process of losing your mind, and that's your egoic mind. That's the chattering mind, the worrying mind, the mind that we all want to get rid of. And what arises out of that is what's always been here, which is the universal mind. that's what's catching you. That's what you're trying to explain, that it's already here. And that's the mind of awareness, the universal mind of awareness. And that's what's always been. It's unborn, never came into existence. It's eternal. That's what's carrying this. And you're still in a path to try to rest fully into that. So an ego will play the game to a certain point, but it won't take the last step. The last step is only done by it turning its attention back onto its source, and it sees the light of itself. That's in that step, in that recognition, is the only way for the ego to take the last step. But it doesn't take the last step. It's just the self takes the last step for it. It has the free will to turn within, to see its own source of awareness. And it's in that recognition that the last step happens. It just happens. It's the grace of God. The grace takes you across that line. The ego does not do that. That's why, I don't know how much time you've spent with Ramana Maharshi, but he's the one that made it clear. There's two ways in which an ego subsides. One's through mana laya. Mana is mind. Laya is subsidence. We do that every night when we go to sleep. The ego it just subsides temporarily. And in the morning when we wake up, it picks right back up where it left off. There's no change. This is the same thing that happens in any sort of meditation. Chanting, mantra, japa, mindfulness. The mind just subsides. Nothing changes. It's only when the ego turns and knows it sees itself, it sees the source of itself, is the only way that mind disintegrates itself and rests into the infiniteness of its own source. That's why anybody on this path, you're trying to get to a place where you're willing to turn within and turn your attention back onto itself. That's where you're trying to get. That's your next big step. Having the courage to turn away from the world and it's just you investigating how the inner world works. That's where true clarity comes in, and that's where true change comes in. And it's change that you as an individual do not make. Those are some of the signs that you know. Once you've been in there for a while, you'll start to experience things in your day-to-day life, changes that you will absolutely know that you did not make. And it's not, the world doesn't change, it's how you perceive the world changes. How you become in line with the world. Things don't bother you as much anymore. Your circumstances are irrelevant as to how your body reacts to them and your mind reacts to them. This is known as peace. Because it's regardless of what the manifestation is putting in front of you, you are just letting it be that as it is. Because you are coming back into line with the reality of it. There's only one reality. You are that reality. So you're coming back in line with the reality of the multiplicity. You're trying to build enough truth of the knowledge conceptually that you're willing to turn within and convert that conceptual truth into inherent truth. Because what this is, you're taking these concepts such as peace and love, which a mind thinks it knows, and you are collapsing them into inherent knowing. You become the peace. Well, you are the peace. You are the love. It's not a concept anymore. So there's this, you're building enough trust with this, that this is reality. And you're willing to make the final, say, surrender from your mind into your heart.